Forget everything you know about karma being slow. This isn't about waiting for the next life. This is about instant, same-day delivery. We've collected 101 cases where karma didn't just catch awful people, it ambushed them. This is the universe's own highlight reel of immediate, unapologetic, and deeply satisfying justice. 1. Stealing a high-end BMW seemed like a great idea to one Seattle car thief, until the doors locked behind him. Remotely, the car's owner started taunting him over the speaker system, turning the heat on full blast while the police casually made their way over. He got a front-row seat to his own capture. 2. A notoriously corrupt judge was famous for taking bribes in exchange for lighter sentences. He was finally caught when he accepted a bribe from an undercover FBI agent posing as a defendant. In a perfect twist, he was sentenced by a famously harsh, by-the-book judge he had openly mocked for years, receiving the maximum possible prison time. 3. A vandal decided to smash a car window with a brick, likely expecting a dramatic crash of glass. He didn't account for one thing: reinforced glass. The brick bounced back with near-perfect force and knocked him out cold, leaving him gift-wrapped for the authorities. Sometimes the problem solves itself. 4. The infamous Westboro Baptist Church, known for their hateful signs, got a lesson in poetic real estate. An LGBTQ+ rights group bought the house directly across the street and painted it the colors of the rainbow pride flag, ensuring the view from the church was a constant, fabulous reminder of their failure. 5. A burglar broke into a home, immediately fell through a skylight, and then had the sheer audacity to sue the homeowners for his injuries. The judge dismissed the lawsuit so fast it probably created a sonic boom, ending one of the dumbest legal challenges in history. 6. History is filled with terrible inventions, but the brazen bull has a special twist. Its creator, Perillos of Athens, proudly presented the torture device to a tyrant who then ordered Perillos to be the very first person to test it. He literally got cooked by his own bad idea. 7. Road rage makes people do stupid things, but one California driver took it to a professional level. He aggressively cut off an unmarked van and slammed his brakes to start a fight. His tough guy act evaporated when a dozen FBI agents in full tactical gear swarmed out. He picked the wrong van. 8. A thief snatched a smartphone and decided to brag by taking a selfie with his new prize. He was unaware the phone automatically uploaded every new photo directly to the owner's cloud storage. The police had a crystal-clear mugshot before a report was even filed. 9. Martin Shkreli, the universally despised pharma bro, paid $2 million for a one-of-a-kind Wu-Tang Clan album. It was later revealed he was scammed and likely bought a worthless fake. The world collectively enjoyed a moment of pure, unapologetic satisfaction. 10. Choosing your target is crucial in any criminal enterprise. An armed robber in France learned this the hard way when he tried to hold up a bar. The bar's patrons just happened to be 7 off-duty members of an elite special forces unit who were enjoying a quiet drink. The robbery did not last long. 11. An online scammer sent out thousands of emails claiming to be a Nigerian prince. One day, he himself received a similar email, fell for it completely, and lost all his ill-gotten money to a rival scammer. In the world of con artists, there's always a bigger fish. 12. A company was notorious for dumping industrial waste into a local river. Years later, during a major flood, that very same contaminated river overflowed its banks and completely destroyed the company's main headquarters. Nature, it seems, has a return policy. 13. A man tried to sue a nature preserve for millions, claiming a rare eagle had attacked him and caused severe injuries. His case fell apart when a local bird-watching club provided time-stamped, high-definition photos of him faking the entire incident, even showing him plucking his own hair out to simulate the attack. 14. An arrogant driver stole a designated disabled parking spot, forcing a man in a wheelchair to park far away. That man happened to be a senior board member of the company the driver was heading to for a final interview. The interview began with the board member saying, "Your judgment in the parking lot already told me everything I need to know." 15. An aggressively family values politician, known for criticizing others' morality, accidentally tweeted a private scandalous photo of himself that was meant for his mistress. His entire career imploded in a single click. Hypocrisy. Meet the internet. 16. A slumlord became infamous for refusing to fix a severe black mold infestation in a low-income family's apartment, leading to their child's hospitalization. During the ensuing lawsuit, the court discovered the slumlord's own luxury mansion had a hidden, unpermitted basement apartment where the exact same toxic mold was found, rendering his entire property unsellable and worthless. 17. An internet troll spent his nights leaving vile, anonymous comments on social media. His reign ended when his employer discovered his online activity and fired him on the spot. Turns out, keyboard warrior isn't a protected class. 18. As the architect of France's reign of terror, Maximilien Robespierre sent tens of thousands to the guillotine. In a stunning twist of fate, his political enemies turned on him, and he met his end at the blade of the very same machine. He became a victim of his own system. 19. A group of burglars stole a collection of rare coins from an elderly man's home. To celebrate, they used some of the coins to pay for drinks at a local bar. The bartender, a coin enthusiast himself, immediately recognized the extremely rare coins from a recent police report and called the authorities while they were still at the bar. 20. The president of a homeowners association ruled his neighborhood with an iron fist, fining people for trivial things like holiday decorations being up a day too late. His reign ended when a resident he fined discovered the HOA's charter had expired 3 years ago, legally dissolving the organization. All his power vanished overnight, turning him into just another powerless, annoying neighbor. 21. An arrogant passenger on a flight rudely ignored the flight attendant's repeated requests to turn off his phone for takeoff. The man sitting next to him finally said, "You might want to do that." The passenger snapped back, "And who are you?" The man calmly replied, "I'm the CEO of the company you're flying to interview with tomorrow morning." 22. A financial guru sold thousands of followers an expensive, foolproof stock trading course, promising them financial freedom. He was later exposed for using his followers' collective buying power to artificially inflate the price of cheap stocks he already owned, then selling them off at the peak, leaving his disciples with worthless shares. He was convicted of market manipulation. 23. A woman won third place in a marathon and proudly accepted her medal. Her glory was short-lived. Race officials checked her time splits and discovered she had somehow run a single mile in under 2 minutes, revealing she had cheated by taking a car for part of the race. 24. A notoriously awful boss fired his most talented graphic designer out of pure ego. That designer went on to start his own firm, immediately poached all of the old company's top clients, and drove his former boss out of business within 2 years. 25. A notorious poacher, known for illegally hunting endangered rhinos in South Africa, met a truly organic end. While tracking his latest victim, he was reportedly trampled to death by an elephant and subsequently eaten by a pride of lions. The food chain, it seems, has a strict no-refunds policy. 26. A customer tried to extort a restaurant by leaving a fake 1-star review, claiming he found a cockroach in his food. The owner responded publicly with security footage showing the man pulling the bug out of his own pocket and placing it on his plate. 27. After a massive forest fire, a logging company tried to illegally harvest protected trees, claiming they were just salvaging burnt timber. A freak windstorm then blew through the area, knocking over all the trees they had cut down and making them completely worthless. 28. A loan shark targeted vulnerable people with predatory loans, using brutal intimidation tactics to collect debts. He was finally arrested, but his ultimate downfall came in prison, where he borrowed a few items from a powerful gang leader and found himself on the receiving end of the same terrifying collection methods he had used on others for years. 29. A smug homeowner repeatedly reported his neighbor to the city for a small, unpermitted treehouse his kids had built. Annoyed, the neighbor reviewed the city's public records and discovered the smug homeowner's massive, expensive deck was built illegally. The deck had to be torn down. 30. The leader of the infamous hacker group LulzSec, who taunted the FBI and CIA for months, was eventually caught and turned. His final act? Working as an FBI informant to help them arrest all of his former hacker comrades. The ultimate betrayal, served cold. 31. The CEO of a hoverboard company, notorious for cutting corners on safety to maximize profit, decided to show off his product on live television. Mid-interview, the device malfunctioned, burst into flames, and sent him sprawling across the stage. The world witnessed his company's shoddy quality in the most personal and humiliating way possible. 32. A politician consistently voted against funding for wildfire prevention, calling it wasteful government spending. A year later, a massive wildfire swept through his district, and his own multi-million-dollar luxury ranch, which was now unprotected, was burned completely to the ground. He lost everything due to his own policies. 33. A man decided to burn down his own failing business to collect a hefty insurance payout. To his absolute horror, he discovered that he had forgotten to renew his policy, and it had expired the day before the fire. He was left with no business, no insurance money, and a very serious arson charge. 34. A social media guru who sold expensive courses on how to achieve a lavish lifestyle was exposed for faking his entire persona. His followers discovered he was filming his private jet videos in a grounded studio, and his mansion was just an Airbnb he rented for a few hours. His empire of lies collapsed overnight. 35. A notoriously brutal pirate captain, known for marooning his own crew members on deserted islands for the slightest infractions, was finally overthrown in a mutiny. His new crew, as their first official act, marooned him on the exact same barren rock where he had left his last victim, but this time, with no hope of rescue. 36. A man used fake, heavily photoshopped pictures of a male model to catfish women online for months. He finally arranged to meet one of his dates in person. When he arrived, he saw she was sitting with the actual model from the photos, who turned out to be her very protective older brother. 37. A manager was infamous for stealing his employees' best ideas and presenting them to executives as his own. During a huge presentation for a new project, the CEO cut him off, saying, "That's brilliant. Your assistant pitched me the exact same idea yesterday when she was handing in her resignation." 38. A man was caught on camera illegally dumping a truckload of old, filthy tires into a pristine national forest. The judge sentenced him not only to a massive fine, but also to personally retrieve every single tire by hand and then spend a month cleaning up trash dumped by other people. 39. A man faked his own death to escape debts and collect a life insurance policy through his wife. While living under a new identity, he was pulled over for a routine traffic stop. When the police ran his fake ID, it came back with an outstanding warrant for a murder committed by the man whose identity he had stolen. 40. Joseph Stalin, the paranoid Soviet dictator, executed or imprisoned nearly all of the country's most competent doctors during his purges. When he suffered a massive stroke years later, the only physicians left were terrified, inexperienced sycophants who were too scared to administer proper treatment. He died a slow, agonizing death, a victim of his own brutal paranoia. 41. A toxic online gamer, after losing a match, doxed his opponent by posting their home address online. In his rage, he mistakenly posted the address of a different user, a notorious and dangerous leader of a local biker gang. The gamer received a real-life visit that strongly persuaded him to abandon his online habits permanently. 42. A music producer was notorious in the industry for shamelessly stealing beats and melodies from up-and-coming artists. He finally got his big break producing a track for a superstar. However, the sample he stole this time was uncleared, leading to a massive lawsuit that bankrupted him and got him blacklisted from the industry. 43. A slumlord who refused to pay for heating in his apartment buildings during a harsh winter was sentenced by a judge to spend a month living in one of his own freezing, dilapidated apartments. He finally understood the misery he had been inflicting on his tenants firsthand. 44. A school bully was infamous for extorting lunch money from smaller kids. He finally cornered a new quiet student who tearfully handed over his cash. The next day, the bully was called to the principal's office, where the new kid and his father, a 6'5" police detective in full uniform, were patiently waiting. 45. A woman faked a slip-and-fall accident in a supermarket to sue for a huge payout. The store's defense team presented crystal-clear security footage in court, which not only showed her faking the fall, but also showed her carefully placing a banana peel on the floor moments before. 46. The leader of a massive pyramid scheme, who had robbed thousands of their life savings, fled the country to a tropical island with no extradition treaty. He was then scammed by a local con artist who sold him a non-existent beachfront mansion, leaving him broke and stranded. 47. A driver in a massive SUV was caught on camera, intentionally swerving to hit puddles at high speed, completely drenching pedestrians on the sidewalk. He didn't notice that one of the people he soaked was an off-duty police detective, who promptly got in his own car, pulled the driver over, and issued him a handful of expensive tickets for reckless driving. 48. A celebrity chef known for his angry, abusive behavior towards his staff had his new restaurant's grand opening. He was publicly humiliated when every single one of his chefs and waiters walked out in unison right before the dinner service, leaving him alone in a full restaurant. 49. A high school student hacked into the school's computer system to change his failing grades to straight A's. He was so proud of his work that he bragged about it on social media. This led to his immediate expulsion and, ironically, a permanent record of academic dishonesty. 50. The treasurer of a children's cancer charity secretly siphoned off thousands in donations to fund a gambling addiction. He was caught after winning a small, local lottery jackpot, and the local newspaper ran a celebratory photo. The charity's director immediately recognized the man, who was too broke to provide the accounting books. 51. A predatory payday loan company specifically targeted elderly people, trapping them in endless debt. Their scheme collapsed when they tried it on a sweet-looking grandmother who happened to be a retired federal judge specializing in financial fraud. She didn't just sue, she personally guided the class action lawsuit that dismantled the entire company. 52. A chemical company illegally dumped toxic waste in barrels in a remote forest for years. The CEO, an avid hunter, later bought a massive plot of that same land for his private hunting reserve. Years later, those barrels leaked into the soil and water, completely poisoning the wildlife and rendering his prized personal paradise a toxic wasteland. 53. A man spent years collecting government disability benefits by pretending to be paralyzed from the waist down. His lucrative scam ended abruptly when he won a brand new pickup truck in a local raffle. Forgetting his act, he triumphantly jumped out of his wheelchair on live television to accept the prize. 54. A customer launched into a vile, racist tirade against a fast food employee, which was secretly filmed by another patron. The video went viral overnight. By morning, the man was identified, publicly shamed, and his employer fired him immediately, stating his behavior was incompatible with the company's values. 55. A man reported his car stolen to collect the insurance money, a classic case of fraud. The police found the car a week later, but it wasn't empty. Inside was a large stash of illegal drugs that the man had completely forgotten about, turning his insurance scam into a major felony charge. 56. A real estate developer illegally drained a protected wetland to build a luxury housing community, ignoring environmental warnings. The first major storm season proved why the wetland was there in the first place, as the entire multi-million-dollar development was submerged in catastrophic floodwaters. 57. A man started a viral GoFundMe campaign, claiming his family's house had burned down and they had lost everything. He raised over $50,000 before a local news station, wanting to do a heartwarming story, discovered his house was perfectly fine. He had faked the entire tragedy, and his sob story turned into a fraud conviction. 58. A university professor with a history of arrogance stole his brilliant graduate student's groundbreaking research and published it under his own name. He was exposed when the student produced his original digital thesis files, complete with timestamps proving his authorship from over a year earlier. 59. The notoriously petty president of a homeowners association fined a family for having a garden gnome that was 2 inches too tall. In response, the family scoured the HOA rulebook and found a forgotten bylaw that made the president's own illegally built patio a finable offense for every single day it existed. 60. A cheap company owner refused to pay a freelance web developer his final $500 payment for a massive project. The developer, who still had back-end access, left a tiny line of code. On the day of the company's biggest product launch, the code activated, redirecting the site's Buy Now button to a page that simply said, "This feature is unavailable due to non-payment of services." 61. A landlord illegally installed hidden cameras in his rental property to spy on his tenants. He was caught when a tech-savvy tenant ran a simple network scan and found the cameras streaming live to the internet. The resulting lawsuit for invasion of privacy cost him the entire property. 62. A notoriously feared food critic tried to extort a high-end restaurant, demanding free meals for life in exchange for a good review. The owner, suspecting this, secretly recorded the entire conversation. He then posted the audio online, destroying the critic's career and credibility in a single afternoon. 63. A patent troll company made millions by suing small businesses for infringing on a vague software patent they had bought. Their lucrative scheme ended when a group of those businesses pooled their resources and proved in court that the patent was invalid from the start, forcing the trolls to pay millions in legal fees. 64. A man left an angry, self-righteous note on an ambulance for blocking his driveway during an emergency call. A paramedic posted a picture of the note online, and the public backlash was so immense that the man was identified and subsequently fired from his job for his staggering lack of empathy. 65. A corrupt mayor funneled millions in city funds, meant for infrastructure repair, into building a lavish private golf course for himself and his cronies. His legacy was cemented when the city's main neglected water pipe finally burst, creating a massive sinkhole that swallowed the entire 18th green. 66. A wealthy CEO, infamous for his arrogance, constantly bragged to his country club friends about how he used legal loopholes to avoid paying taxes. One of those friends, who was being secretly investigated by the IRS, decided to offer up the CEO's name and specific schemes in exchange for a lighter sentence for himself. The CEO's own bragging led directly to a massive tax fraud conviction. 67. A corrupt city official took bribes to approve building permits for a construction company that used cheap, unsafe materials. His downfall came when a local news team's investigative report, prompted by a whistleblower, directly linked his undeclared income to the failing infrastructure he had approved. 68. A restaurant owner was set to receive a Best Place to Work award from a local magazine. The magazine decided to interview some of his employees for the article, who then proceeded to expose his practices of wage theft and verbal abuse on the record, turning his award into a public relations disaster. 69. To get a better ocean view, a wealthy homeowner illegally cut down a grove of protected, old-growth trees on the public cliffside below his property. The trees' roots were the only thing holding the cliff together, and the next heavy rain caused a massive landslide that took out his prized infinity pool. 70. A tech CEO, famous for promoting a toxic hustle culture and bragging about sleeping 4 hours a night, had a very public breakdown during a major product launch. The company's board cited his erratic behavior and poor judgment as a direct result of burnout and promptly forced him to resign. 71. A top executive for a major tobacco company spent decades publicly arguing under oath that cigarettes were not addictive and did not cause cancer. After retiring with a fortune built on this lie, he was diagnosed with and ultimately died from a particularly aggressive form of lung cancer. 72. An online troll created a fake profile to relentlessly harass a local journalist, sending threats to her and her family. He was caught when he sent one of his threatening messages while connected to the free Wi-Fi of a local coffee shop. The journalist, using her investigative skills, obtained the shop's security footage, which clearly showed his face at the exact time the message was sent. 73. A cheating husband bought his wife a sophisticated fitness tracker as a thoughtful gift. He was later busted when she noticed the device recorded unexplained spikes in his heart rate around 2 in the morning, complete with GPS data pinpointing his location at another woman's address. 74. A diner left a scathing 1-star review claiming a specific seafood dish gave him terrible food poisoning. The restaurant owner publicly responded, politely pointing out that not only had the diner not ordered that dish, but it hadn't even been on the menu for over 6 months. 75. A health guru became famous by selling a book promoting a dangerous and medically unproven diet. He relentlessly shamed anyone who questioned his methods. His career abruptly ended when he suffered a massive heart attack, a condition his own doctors directly attributed to the exact extreme diet he had been peddling to millions. 76. The infamous gangster Al Capone was responsible for countless brutal crimes, but law enforcement could never make the charges stick. His reign of terror finally ended when the IRS, the Internal Revenue Service, successfully prosecuted and imprisoned him for the one crime he thought was minor: tax evasion. 77. A famous TV host built her entire billion-dollar brand on the motto, "Be kind." Her empire came crashing down when dozens of former and current employees came forward with detailed, verified stories of her creating one of the most toxic, abusive, and cruel workplaces in the television industry. Her show was canceled and her reputation was permanently destroyed. 78. An employee called in sick to his office job claiming to have a terrible flu so he could attend a major baseball game. His lie was exposed in the most public way imaginable when his face was plastered on the stadium's giant jumbotron during a fan of the game segment. His boss was watching at home. 79. The captain of a fishing boat, notorious for illegally hunting sharks just for their fins, found his vessel disabled and adrift in the middle of the ocean. The only ship to respond to his distress call was a large research vessel belonging to a marine conservation society dedicated to protecting sharks. 80. A micromanager boss installed keylogger software on his employees' computers to spy on their private chats. He was caught after he used information from a chat to fire someone for disloyalty. That employee successfully sued for invasion of privacy, using the boss's own IT purchase orders for the spy software as the primary evidence. 81. A corporation spent millions lobbying the government to weaken safety regulations in their factories. A few months later, one of their main production plants suffered a catastrophic failure directly linked to the very regulations they had nullified, costing them 10 times more in damages than the safety upgrades would have. 82. A man built a massive, ugly spite fence to completely block his neighbor's scenic mountain view. However, he failed to check city regulations, which stated any fence over 6 feet required a permit he didn't have. He was forced by the city to tear down his expensive monument to pettiness at his own cost. 83. A con artist sold dozens of fake invincibility potions to ancient Chinese Emperor Qin Shi Huang, promising him eternal life. The emperor died, ironically, from mercury poisoning, which was the primary ingredient in the very potions the con artist had supplied him with. 84. A student who cheated his way through his entire computer science degree finally landed a high-paying job. On his very first day, he was asked to perform a basic coding task that any legitimate graduate could do in minutes. He couldn't, and was fired in disgrace before lunch. 85. A woman running for city council based her entire campaign on family values and condemning local nightlife. Her campaign imploded when a local newspaper uncovered and published photos of her from the previous weekend, winning a tequila-fueled wet t-shirt contest at a bar in the next town over. 86. A contractor took a massive deposit from an elderly couple for a home renovation and then completely vanished, leaving their house in ruins. Months later, he tried the same scam on another house. He didn't realize the new client was the son of the elderly couple he had previously robbed, a detective who had been using his own house as bait to catch him. 87. A group of hackers, after stealing and releasing sensitive data from a major corporation, publicly taunted the company's cybersecurity team for their incompetence. They were tracked down and arrested after one of them used the stolen company credit card to order a pizza to his own house. 88. A man in a massive pickup truck was coal rolling, intentionally blasting black smoke onto a group of environmental protesters. He failed to see the police cruiser directly behind the protesters and was immediately pulled over and slapped with a massive fine for violating emissions laws. 89. To cut costs, a CEO fired his entire experienced in-house IT department and outsourced the work to a cheap, overseas firm. Less than a month later, the new firm's incompetence led to a catastrophic ransomware attack that crippled the entire company. With no one left who truly understood the old systems, the CEO could only watch as his savings measure cost him everything. 90. An incredibly impatient driver illegally and disrespectfully cut his way through a slow-moving funeral procession. He didn't realize the person in the lead car he angered was the CEO of the company he was rushing to for a make-or-break final job interview. He was not hired. 91. A soccer player, infamous for faking dramatic injuries to draw penalties, went down in the box, writhing in fake agony. As the medical team rushed onto the field with a stretcher, he was so committed to his act that he didn't notice them approaching. One of the medics tripped, sending the stretcher flying right into the player's head, giving him a very real injury. 92. In a shocking display of corporate greed, a health insurance CEO successfully lobbied to deny coverage for a new, life-saving experimental treatment, calling it too expensive. Less than a year later, he was diagnosed with the exact rare disease that only this specific treatment could cure. He was, of course, denied coverage by his own policy. 93. A man who built his entire online brand around canceling people for decade-old jokes and minor mistakes was exposed by a former colleague. It turned out he had a long, documented history of embezzlement and workplace harassment at his previous job, making his self-righteous crusade a monumental act of hypocrisy. 94. An arrogant driver, late for a flight, illegally parked his luxury car in a designated fire lane directly in front of the airport terminal. While he was checking in, a fire alarm was triggered. Firefighters, needing access, simply smashed his windows and ran their massive fire hose directly through his car, as per protocol. 95. A notoriously difficult film director was so abusive on set that he made his lead actor perform a dangerous stunt dozens of times, well past the point of exhaustion. On the final take, the exhausted actor accidentally crashed the prop vehicle directly into the director's ridiculously expensive personal camera setup, destroying it completely. 96. A petty neighbor constantly filed baseless complaints against a family for their dog's occasional barking. Frustrated, the family installed a high-end security camera to prove their innocence. The camera not only recorded their quiet dog, but also caught the petty neighbor intentionally throwing his own trash into their yard to create evidence for new complaints, leading to his own fines for illegal dumping and harassment. 97. A con artist posing as a psychic told a wealthy client he saw a dark legal cloud and a man in a uniform in her future, demanding a huge fee to cleanse her aura. The client revealed she was an undercover IRS agent, and the man in uniform he saw was the officer waiting outside to arrest him for massive tax fraud. 98. A music superstar blatantly stole a melody from a completely unknown indie artist and turned it into a #1 hit. The indie artist's original song then went viral on TikTok, with millions of users showing side-by-side comparisons, turning the superstar's hit into a global symbol of plagiarism. 99. A fake psychic made a fortune telling grieving parents he could communicate with their deceased children for an exorbitant fee. His career ended when a skeptical father, who was also a sound engineer, recorded a session and used audio analysis to prove the spirit voices were just pre-recorded tracks being played on a hidden device. 100. A landlord tried to illegally evict a family by shutting off their water and power, hoping to make the home unlivable. The family's lawyer discovered a clause in the city's housing code that not only made this act illegal but also required the landlord to pay for the family to live in a luxury hotel until the utilities were restored and the case was settled. 101. A man attempted to frame his ex-wife for a crime by planting illegal items in her car late at night. His entire master plan crumbled when the police reviewed footage from his own high-tech dashcam, which he had forgotten to turn off, and which had recorded him committing the act from start to finish. That was our list. 101 moments of pure, unfiltered karmic payback. But we all know the world is full of these stories, and the best ones are often personal. So I want to know, what is the most satisfying case of real-life karma you have ever personally witnessed? Don't hold back. I want the juiciest stories in the comments below. And if you believe in cosmic justice, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss the next dose.